This is Benzinga Live. Spencer Israel and producer AB. What's up, everybody? How we doing?
Someone told me buy high, sell higher. So.
Let's get Matt Hammond on the show to talk some IPOs. Jake Wojacek from Trend Spider. We have a breaking news.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Benzinga Live. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. SPY just turned over. I don't know what happened. We were at 393, hit that level and rejected, down to 391 right now. But we've got a little bit of a different show today. Starting 30 minutes early, we've got some cool startups with us, some companies from Start Engine that are starting here and then going over to Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank to pitch their companies. So excited that they're stopping here with us first. Shout out Benzinga, shout out James O'Connor for setting this up. But we do have to get rolling since we've got 5 great companies. I'll go ahead and roll through the names of those companies real quick. We have Diggs, we have Artly, we have Wine Spies, we have Max Pro based here in Detroit. Excited about that one. And then Swift. I think that's how you will say that, SWFT. So excited to talk to these 5 startups. I think we're going to go ahead and go in that order. So let me go ahead and roll those companies in that order again. We'll talk to Diggs first, then Artly, then Wine Spies, Max Pro, and then Swift. Again, these are startup companies that are raising money on Start Engine that are going to be pitching us their ideas, and then over to Kevin O'Leary. So excited for the opportunity to talk to these founders. Without further ado, if I get a thumbs up from Zell hanging out from Diggs in the backstage that he's ready to come on, we'll go ahead and give Ziggs our special Zinger Nation welcome. And when we come back, we'll be talking about Diggs, what it is the company does, and chatting with Zell. Zell, how are you doing? Joining us with Diggs. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you, Aaron?
I am great. Great. It's, new year so far. Market's been a little bit better this year, knock on wood. I don't know if that's going to be an indicator for all of 2023, if we're just getting lucky to start. But Zell, where are you joining us from, by the way?
New York City, office in Queens, in Long Island City.
There you go. We're based here down in downtown Detroit, Michigan. So let's hop right into it. What is Diggs? What is it that you guys do?
Diggs is a premium brand of innovative pet products. I like to think of us as sort of the Yeti for pet, or the simple human for pet. What that basically means is our products are high design, aesthetic, very functional, slightly higher price point than what's on the market, but you're getting a really premium product. Definitely a lifestyle brand that people can relate to, especially with how people think about their pets today.
Got it. So the Revel dog crate, that's the kind of flagship premier product from Diggs, correct?
That's right. It's over my left shoulder here too.
Oh, okay. Can you grab it real quick? I want to see it.
Sure.
What differentiates this Revel dog crate from just an essential, anything I can go buy at PetSmart?
Yeah, so the majority of dog crates on the market today have a number of issues, right? They're not very attractive. Certainly, these are, for people who've had dog crates and know how to, have experienced them. They often sit right in your living room, or they can sit in your bedroom. And if you've got a nice home decor, it's pretty ugly to have just a black wire cage. So first things first, it just looks very different. It's much more aesthetic. And part of that's the way it's designed and the way the materials we use, like this beautiful aluminum and this kind of gorgeous steel wire mesh. The next big thing is wire crates are very difficult to collapse and store and move out of the way. Anyone who's ever tried one has known the experience of pinching your fingers and getting stuck and not figuring out how to do it. Our crate has a handle in the top in the ceiling. You turn the handle, the whole thing collapses into itself. It's almost like magic. The other thing that's really important to us, we build our brand on safety and quality. What's interesting about the pet space is that pets are legally property. So a lot of the products on the market you find today are very low quality. They injure dogs. There's been a number of dog deaths from different pet products. We're trying, and our mission is to improve that standard of quality. And in fact, we partner with premium baby product manufacturers to build our products. And basically, we're bringing the highest standard of consumer product safety to the pet space.
I know a lot of people, a lot of customers out there are probably wondering, maybe hoping Could this dog crate help their puppy, their dog, maybe stay a little bit quieter when it's in the crate?
Yes. So we think we always talk internally about when we design products, we're designing for two customers, the pet and the parent, so that we always think about both and we're designing for both. So definitely think a lot about, how the puppy will be comfortable, or what kind of like how they would react in the environment. So a few like very subtle things you as if you just looked at it, you wouldn't necessarily know. But if you actually look from the top view, it's actually a slightly circular crate. It's not a perfect square. The reason for that is if you've ever seen dogs curl up, they like to spin around and curl into a ball. So it's meant to like encourage that. There's a very low rattle as compared to regular wire crates. So noise is dogs are very, especially puppies are very sensitive to noise. So the noise is much lower. So it's less likely to set them off. And because of the kind of higher quality and premium materials, we tend to find that dogs that were, for whatever reason, uncomfortable in wire crates tend to be comfortable in ours. And we suspect it's because there's fewer smells, there's fewer bad tastes. It's just it's a much more kind of pure product, if you will.
Got it. So what was your, starting point for wanting to design a new dog crate? Like, did you have a dog that hated its crates? Or I assume you guys have an interesting story on how you guys got started.
Definitely. It was one of those, personal shopping experiences that said, hey, this could be better. And basically what happened was in 2016, I adopted my dog, Louise, and I went to go buy kind of the best for her. That's, at the time I was able to find great food. The pet space has changed a lot. There's now kind of human grade food you could find. There's phenomenal vets and other services. But I was shocked to see that everything on the market in the supply space, from toys to crates to beds, were all pretty low quality, no brand equity, lots of safety issues that I found out about. And at the time, my friends were buying homes for the first time and having children for the first time. So I became exposed to brands in adjacent industries, like Yeti and coolers, or Simple Human and trash cans, or Dyson vacuums, or UPPA strollers. And I said, surely that if that kind of quality, aesthetic, function, brand exists in other industries, and the way we think about pets and love our pets like they're our family, surely there's room for a brand like that in the pet space. And that was the idea. Got
it. Yeah, that's a great story. I don't personally have a dog yet, but when I get one, I'll be checking out that Revel crate, because it does seem like an improvement from just what you could find your standard one. So before I let you go, Zell, before I let you go over to Kevin O'Leary, what are some kind of like next steps? What are you looking to do in terms of growth for the company, scaling from here?
Yeah, so we've had a very big growth trajectory over the last 4 years. We're now nicely into kind of 8 figures in revenue, and we've grown mostly with just a few products on mostly direct to consumer. Our expansion now is we're adding some major products over the next few months, and we're trying to expand aggressively into wholesale now. We do have a wholesale presence, but that's like kind of our main focus now.
Got it. Well, Zell, good luck today with Kevin. Thank you for stopping by Benzinga beforehand. I hope you guys have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I'll be looking at some Diggs dog crates when that time comes that I do make that leap and get a dog.
Thank you so much.
All righty, guys. That was Zell Crampton from Diggs. We are going to be getting to our next company on the list, Artly. When we see if I let's see. I actually don't see the Artly founder, Meng Wang, in the background. So let's see who's up next on our list. That would be Wine Spies, Agent Crew, and Agent Red hanging out backstage. If I get a thumbs up from the Wine Spies, we'll go ahead and give them our very special Zinger Nation welcome and bring those Wine Spies on the stream.
Good morning.
All right. Good morning, Agent Crew, Agent Red.
I'm Agent Red.
All right, we've got Agent Crew, Agent Red joining us from, I don't know, can we disclose your location? I don't want to put anyone in danger.
We're in a top secret location in Petaluma, California, right in the heart of California's wine country.
Okay, Napa Valley, huh? So it's early for you guys. You're joining us early.
It's still a little dark. It's very rainy here. Lots of atmospheric rivers causing all kinds of problems, but we're here. We're so stoked to be here and among such great company with the other finalists.
It's not too early to get started yet. We'll pop a bottle with Kevin.
All right, there you go. So yeah, I've been seeing something in the news about the weather in California. So good luck with that. But what is Wine Spies? I'm always curious. I love new companies that are in the wine and beer space. So give me the rundown on what Wine Spies does.
Yeah, Wine Spies offers one discounted wine every day in a limited 24-hour sale. We're actually the oldest contiguous running wine flash sale in the world. And
Since 2007.
Yeah, opened in 2007, and the last 5 years have seen really tremendous growth. And yeah, we're super stoked to bring the world's best wines to our customers every day.
And one thing we do a little bit different is we have a feature we call lockers. So most of our competitors, it's usually free shipping on 6, but for us, you can actually add as little as 1 bottle to your locker. And then when it's full case is 12, then you can ship for free.
Got it. So is it essentially, are you guys like coordinating with, big resellers of wine and saying, okay, what are you guys trying to essentially, like, what do you guys have a lot of trying to get rid of? Okay, we'll put this wine on sale, and then you get a better deal to consumers that might buy that wine anyway?
There's actually a lot of different reasons that producers find us. We work directly with wineries, we work with distributors, we work with brokers, and there's a lot of different reasons. We've been doing this, like I said, for 15 years now. And the reality is that it takes a long time to build up those kinds of relationships and build that kind of pipeline where we're able to get all these different wines at the prices that we need to get them. So there's not any one quick answer for why we're able to find the wines we do, but that's why we're spies.
And it's not just closeouts or things that wineries are particularly motivated to get rid of. We actually break a lot of exclusive wines, new release wines. Again, 15 years of the wine trade means that we have super deep roots. Some of the folks on my team have been in the wine trade for 20 plus years.
Yeah. And we sell a lot of wine. So part of the motivation is just for the winery can be putting in a big order.
Yeah. And to expose their brand to a lot of customers, our customers, who we call our operatives, by the way.
I like that.
Yeah.
So right now, is it pretty much fully direct to consumer? Is there any, are you guys working with any restaurants, anything like that? Is there any plans to try to start incorporating some business to business verticals in the future?
Yeah, it's really almost 100% direct to consumer. We do have our own brands. This is one of them. This is Enigma. This was made by a winemaker whose name we cannot mention, but he is a top 5 U.S. winemaker. And we can't disclose who it is or what vineyard it came from, but this is an extraordinary wine that we are able to sell at a really great price.
And some fun spy gimmicks. We got a code on the front. On the back, there's a QR code that launches a virtual Enigma machine, and the cipher key is on the cork itself. So you need that in order to open the bottle.
Wow. That's pretty cool. I mean, I might have to check one of those out, try the QR code. I love the interactive wine bottles. I know they do the whatever the crimes one is. There's some interactive stuff on that one too. Yeah. Let's say this is not as much of a business related question to Wine Spies, but a question that I might find useful and maybe some people in our audience. Give me a recommendation for a good bottle of wine that's not super expensive, but you're like, that's a good bottle of wine.
Go to winespies.com.
Yes.
Okay.
Right now, we're actually selling a pretty great wine today. It's made by Jocelyn, and the winemaker is a daughter or a granddaughter of Robert Mondavi. It's a Spring Mountain Cabernet that is just extraordinary. It's $110 retail. We're selling it for $49 today. And I think that given the current pace of sales, we'll probably sell out by midday today.
Yeah. And I mean, just for example, yesterday we sold a Zinfandel that was retailing at $30. We sold it for $15. The day before that, we were selling a Douro, which was retailing at $55. We sold it for $30. So that's the whole point of Wine Spies. I mean, real wines by sought after vineyards that you can find at a crazy good price. And it's basically coming with the Wine Spy seal of approval because we're only selling wines that we love.
Yeah. So, I mean, I imagine like if you're someone that's really into wine, you could literally check this site every day. And if you see something you like say you hate Merlots and it's a Merlot that day, you don't add it to your cart, but you see something you like, you add it to your cart. Once it's up to 12, free shipping, and you're just getting these wines at great price. I mean, it seems like kind of a no-brainer for someone that is really into wine.
Yeah, you got it. And the other problem that we're solving is you have to be home to sign for alcohol. So this way you can check in every day, but when you buy a bottle, you can aggregate those orders over time into a single shipment. It's way more convenient. You could also ship it at your convenience. We'll hold it indefinitely for you up to 2 cases. So that just really, really makes it easier to find and get an actual selection of wines rather than just one wine.
Got it. And that was kind of going to bring me to my next and unfortunately last question because we're kind of cramped on time here. But and this might be a stupid question. You kind of answered it partly with you have to be present to sign. But what about just the physical shipping? Like, how do you a lot of bubble wrap to make sure the bottles don't break?
Yeah, so we use a third-party fulfillment house, which is a huge benefit because it's basically specialized transportation network just for wine. And there's a lot of economies of scale because every single winery and wine retailer uses one of these houses. So it comes in specialized packaging. You can use pulp shipments if you're not using an ice pack during the hot months. So it's basically special form treated cardboard. And yes, if you do want to have it shipped to you cold during this hot summer months, then it will come in a styrofoam package with a pulp insert. The entire industry has been looking for other solutions, but we'll ship your wine safely all year round and at the right temperature, which is something that people weren't able to offer in the past.
Got it. I mean, did you guys find that the shipping process and the logistics of that were like a big hurdle, or has it been pretty, seamless and easy with that third-party fulfiller?
Pretty seamless. I would say that the biggest hurdle are the regulatory hurdles. It varies state by state, zip code by zip code, and sometimes even street by street. Some places, one side of the street, you can have wine shipped to you. The other side of the street, you cannot. And so our software platform, which we developed, 100% proprietary platform that runs our whole business, one of the things that it does is it takes all of those sort of shifting sands of regulatory compliance issues into account to make sure that we're shipping compliantly.
Got it. Yeah. And I mean, did you guys find on that note on the regulatory, front that during COVID, were there a lot of, alcohol delivery rules lifted? I know, in some states, they made it legal to, deliver marijuana for the first time during COVID and stuff like that. So did you see some leniency in regulations during COVID?
There was a lot of consumer buying patterns shifted during COVID, which affected our business. But no, the regulatory framework did not shift specifically for wine shipments direct to door.
It's slow to change in the wine business.
Yeah, the Supreme Court keeps throwing out cases that get brought before it.
All right. Well, like I said, we are running up on time. I guess the last thing I'll say, do you guys have any bold predictions for the wine market in 2023 or going forward? Is there, going to be a...
For sure, Aaron. Online wine buying is only going to continue to grow. People's patterns shifted during COVID, and by all accounts, that behavior change has remained, steady state and climbing.
And it's funny, even during a recession, one thing people are loath to give up is their beloved drinks. So
Wine Spice was born during the last recession.
Yeah, that's a good point. The vices tend to stay steady in recessions, whether that be alcohol or gambling, whatever it is. So the Wine Spies, Agent Crew, and Agent Red, thank you for joining us from your top secret location. I'm excited to, good luck with Kevin O'Leary. I'm excited to see, who wins out of you guys. But it should be a great competition you guys are doing.
All right. Cheers, Aaron. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All righty, y'all. Those were the Wine Spies, Agent Crew, and Agent Red. Go to winespies.com if you guys want to check out some good deals on wine. I'm not the biggest wine guy, but I might have to start building a locker in there just so that I've got some stacked up at my house that's like actually decent wine, saying like, oh yeah, you want this bottle? Impress some, someone that comes over, say, look, I actually know what I'm doing a little bit. All righty, guys. We've talked to so far Diggs and Wine Spies. Still waiting for Artley. If we see Artley pop in, we'll definitely have her come on. But we've got two more companies in about 10 minutes, so we're gonna keep it rolling. We've got Max Pro Fitness, based in downtown Detroit, Michigan. And we're right here in Campus Martius. We got the ice rink right behind me. I see Nazar. I hope I'm saying that right. Nazar Akil in the backstage hanging out. So without further ado, let's go ahead and give Nazar our very special Zinger Nation welcome. Bring Max Pro on the stream and talk to another company that's from right here in Detroit. Nazar, how's it going?
What's going on, Aaron? How you doing, man?
Pretty good. So you're down here in Detroit?
I'm north of Detroit. I'm in Rochester right now.
Oh, you're up in Rochester right now. Nice. So, all right, let's get right into it. What is Max Pro Fitness? What do you guys do?
So Max Pro is a very unique, innovative fitness product, connected fitness product. This is what it looks like right here.
Whoa.
And it basically is a device that gives you 5 pounds to 300 pounds of resistance with just a turn of a dial. So this is 5 pounds, and this is 150 pounds per side. And then it locks out. And it's actually not so intuitive exactly how it's used because it's so unique. But it is less than 10 pounds. And basically, you know, out of the Detroit area, I went to school in Wayne State and so on, and we're automotive. And so I took my automotive experience in engineering and combined it with my passion for fitness and created something that I really could use when I travel mostly. But it's just really blown up and resonated with so many different groups of people that it's been quite amazing.
So yeah, I mean, like you stand on it and use the cables as is that the idea, or are there multiple different workouts you can do with it? How does it work?
Yeah, you got it. It literally, I know there's a lot of portable gyms that say you can put the whole gym and make, you know, every exercise you can do in a gym, but because of the high resistance levels and the ability to change resistance so easily, you can stand on it, you can sit on it, you can put it on our door system, you can put it on under our bench. We have a bench system. I have it up here on the video if you want me to show you. I'm in our website, but it's you know, it's again, it's not something that people have seen before, so it's not immediately recognizable on maxprofitness.com.
Yeah, here, let me go ahead and pull up the website and see if we can get the video of it, because I'm very curious about this. So do you guys have any you know, you guys have like a gym or anything here in Detroit, or what's in terms of it? Is it all essentially like direct to consumer online sales? How does that work?
Yeah, we're 98% direct to consumer. And so you can see right there in this video, for example, people are using it in complete, like on the door system that we have here, that can mount at any hotel room or anywhere. So quite universal, but they've also, many people have mounted to trees and fences. You change the resistance just like that. There's our bench, and you can do all types of workouts with it. Again, it gives you a maximum power of 300 pounds and very easy to adjust. And then it's also connected to our app. So there's built-in sensors that relay every rep, every motion that you do, at what resistance level, at what speed, gives you how much power you're putting into your workout. And it's all readily accessible within the app and recorded, and then you can monitor your progress over time. There's the app right there. Actually, you know, that app right there is called the Detroit Dash, the one that was just up there.
Oh, really? The Detroit? I like that.
Yeah, we created it just to be like an automotive dashboard to read all your feedback.
That's awesome. So you you know, is the target demographic essentially someone who wants to work out, stay fit, but is like traveling a lot? Like who have you found as kind of the premier customers so far?
You know, that's exactly who we thought was going to be the primary demographic, primary customers. But we have been really blown away by the breadth and width of who's really interested in it. So, for example, we have a lot of, you know, this van life RV thing that's happening, you know, from COVID, and people are everyone. A lot of people are using it on the road, in campgrounds. Truck drivers are using it. We've had military members, many military members, take MaxPro with them on deployment. There's been interest from military units now, like Navy SEALs, and we've even seen MaxPro being used in nuclear submarines because it's so compact but still efficient. We also are really probably most proud about the fact that because it's extremely safe to use, even compared to bands, because it doesn't snap, these are cables, that we have a lot of people in the disabled community or with limited mobility that have found, you know, really a new way for the first time to work out resistance training with a MaxPro, whether you roll your wheelchair on it or just being able to change the resistance very easily by turning the dial, even if there's limited mobility with hands and so on. So that there's just a wide variety of people. We also have pro athletes that have used it. Shaq is also aboard in our company. So, you know, we have had success with Andre Drummond and some of the other NBA players, which, because we have 10 feet of cable, you can actually stretch out overhead, and even for a basketball player in the NBA, it's not a problem.
Wow. Yeah, of course, Andre was here playing in Detroit for a while. Well, Nazar, unfortunately, we are running out of time, but I'm always rooting for companies from Detroit, so I'll definitely, be following your guys' story. Would love to have you on again in the future, or even have you into the office or something and do an in-person interview. But Nazar, good luck today with Kevin O'Leary. Again, like I said, I'll be following the Max Pro story, and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.
Excellent. Thanks, Aaron. Take care.
No problem. Talk soon, Nazar. All right, guys, that was Nazar Akil, founder and CEO of Max Pro Fitness. We're running out of time. Sorry about that, guys. But we got to get to our next and final guest, saving the best, potentially, for last. We've got David Liniato joining us from Swift. We're going to be talking about electric vehicles. So without further ado, let's go ahead and give David our very special intro and bring him on the show. David, how's it going today?
Hey, Aaron, great to see you. Excellent.
Great to see you as well. Sorry, we're running up the time. We can go a few minutes past 11:30. I don't know what your schedule. I mean, I know you guys got to get over to Kevin O'Leary. So let's hop right into it. What is Swift? What do you guys do?
Swift is reinventing the garage of the future, bringing electric transportation, micromobility to the masses, from e-bikes, mopeds, three-wheel vehicles, low-speed vehicles, really a whole line of electric transportation. Everyone can't afford an electric car, but everyone knows that the environment is at risk, and there's a better way to get around, and that's electric transportation, and that's Swift.
So are those vehicles behind you, or those are all Swift products?
Yeah, those are all Swift products. We just launched an electric BMX bike. We've got a fat tire bike. We've got a city bike. We've got a moped. We've got a scooter, all personal mobility, all for you to keep at your house, your garage, your apartment, easy to get around. 60% of rides in the country are less than 5 miles. So we've got that covered.
Yeah, and that's where everyone right now kind of assumes electric cars are going to change the future of transportation and whatnot. But I have an e-bike. And I'm like, I don't know why every single person in the world should have one. Every city should be set up to where people can just ride their e-bikes around, and we'd be so happy. Yeah, I mean, like, what's stopping us from doing that, David? Is it all just like regulatory city planning?
Actually, quite the opposite. The cities are jumping on board. Denver just started doing a $400 rebate for citizens. We're just, we're right at that inflection point, and what's going to change that is Swift. We're now available at hundreds of Best Buy locations. You can walk in, you can see Swift and Best Buy. We're rolling out to other major retailers. It's a product that you want to see and touch. You want to, you need it to be right for your, for whatever you're looking for, whether it's your height, whether it's the environment you're in. So we're rolling out in person to literally hundreds of locations across the country, setting up tents, letting people demo it. And over the last 3 years, this category has grown over 300%. So it's catching on, but we think we're right at the beginning of a huge growth curve.
Awesome. So I gotta ask, David. I mean, it seems to me like we're seeing kind of the e-bike thing blow up. I know you got some scooters and whatnot as well, but there are a lot of people I think putting e-bikes out there. What kind of sets Swift apart from that competition?
Yeah, what sets us apart is we've got a wide range of products and the price. We've got an excellent product. Our fat tire bike, you could find that for $3,000 on the market. Ours is $1,499. So you can go to rideswft.com. And really, it's an attainable product. It's amazing quality. All of our batteries are UL tested. And you got the right ride. We say everyone needs a seat. So it's a wide range of products at a price everyone can afford, and bringing you really great technology. We keep innovating on the next product and the next product.
So you said some Swift products are already available in Best Buys, correct?
Yes. Yeah, we're available on Best Buy, our site, another number of other retailers.
Got it. Yeah, that was just gonna be my next question about other potential names, brands you're looking to partner with on the B2B standpoint.
Yeah, coming up this year, we're in advanced talks to roll out to Walmart, Target, Sam's Club. Really, what our vision is with Swift is to be everywhere the consumer is. So just like you'd say, I'm going to go get a flat screen TV, I'm going to go get my e-bike. It's going to be affordable. You don't need to overspec it. You don't need to overspend. And really, everyone should have one.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking to Sam's Club and Walmart about putting your products in there, you must be hitting that a good price point for them.
Yeah, we're hitting an amazing price point. To get an e-bike for less than $1,000 is pretty much unheard of. You know,
Wow.
maybe you can find that, but you're not going to find the quality of Swift. No way.
I didn't find that. I wish I would have known about y'all sooner.
Well, that's what we're passionate about, letting people spend the right amount of money and getting where they need to go and having fun.
All right, well, David, I don't want to keep you too long. I know you've got a busy day coming or going over to speak with Kevin O'Leary. Good luck on your pitch today. Again, guys, David Liniato from Swift. If you guys want to check out an e-bike, go to swift.com or your local Best Buy. David, good luck today. And yeah, if you ever want to come on the show in the future and talk some more about electric transportation and what's in store for Swift, would love to have you.
Love to do it. Thanks, Aaron.
No problem. All right, guys, that was David from Swift. Woo! We did it. 30 minutes, 5 companies in 30 minutes. Shout out to all the founders that joined us. We'll run through the names real quick. Again, of course, we had Zell Crampton from Diggs, revolutionizing the dog crate. Wow, I can't speak today. Revolutionizing the dog crate and some other pet products. We had the Wine Spies, Agent Crew and Agent Rex. Of course, they joined us from an undisclosed top secret location, but working to deliver good wine to consumers at a good price point. Max Pro Fitness, based here in Detroit. Nazar Akil, shout out Detroit. And then David Liniano from Swift, who we just spoke to. So shout out to all the Start Engine founders. Good luck today with Mr. Kevin O'Leary. Send Kevin O'Leary our regards from Benzinga. He's a good fan or a good friend of the company. But guys, let's get into the show. Stock market. What's going on today? I saw the SPY when we started the show. I was saying the SPY had rolled over. Guess what? It's coming back now. We're back up near that 393 level. It's been so far just a whipsaw type of the year, a roller coaster type year where we've gone up, down each and every day. Tesla particularly, again, showing some volatility today. Went up at one point more than 5.5%, up to that 125 level. Came back down. We're trading at 122.5 right now. Let me go ahead and get my Benzinga Pro pulled up. We will be having my man downtown Nick Brown join us on the stream today. Got to get him the link, actually. Sorry, Nick. Sending it to you now. And then, Wine Spies, Agent Crew and Agent Red messaged me. If you use the code Benzinga on Wine Spies, winespies.com right now, you can get an extra 10% off your first order. So just throwing that out there. All right. Where's my BZ Pro? There we go. Launch platform. As always, if you guys got any stocks, trades, anything you want to check out, let me know in the chat. We can take a look. I had a SPY on trade, or a trade on SPY earlier today that that I got out of. But my whole thing so far this year, or at least like honestly the past like couple months, is I don't think, from what I can see from the numbers I'm looking at, I know there's always a bear case to be made. That I don't think the economy is really in as bad of a spot as a lot of people, seem to think. I think a lot of people think, Chicken Little, the sky's falling. We're going to see some huge 08, 09, or 07, 08 type recession this year. And I don't know. Like, I think you can just look around at different markets, even if you're looking just at the S&P 500, but once you start digging in, and we talked about this on the show yesterday, starting to look at the relationship between how different things are trading. Like if you're looking at how energy is trading versus how the financials are trading versus how healthcare is trading versus how utilities are trading, you can start to see kind of how relationships, how Wall Street is viewing certain things. And one thing that we talked about yesterday, I don't know if Jay Rice is in the chat, but he basically said like seeing, FCX and seeing SCCO, a copper name, at all-time highs or near all-time highs, seeing energy continuing to trade higher. It just doesn't look like in certain individual markets that they're pricing in a recession. And to me, you can't, and we talked about this yesterday with Andrew Aziz, that it's not always that simple for energy. So I don't want to just talk about energy because we talked about how supply chain issues can help prop up price even if demand falls. But copper, so there's been a long, kind of saying idiom. I don't even really know what you want to call it, but Dr. Copper is something that a lot of Wall Street insiders have used for a long time. And it's kind of been like, look at Dr. Copper for your diagnosis of the economy. If copper's doing well, Dr. Copper's checking all the things on the medical list saying, hey, everything's looking good. Everything's looking good on the economy. If copper's getting hammered, that's when Dr. Copper says, okay, I mean, like things are bad. We might need to do some, experimental surgery here, and that might be higher interest rates. I don't know. But point of the matter is Copper's hanging out doing fine right now. So a lot of people I've seen talking about this, talking about that. Look, metals, copper, showing good economic activity, showing that good trading right now. I mean, look at this freaking move on copper going from $48 to $72, like it's a penny stock. In like 3 months, this thing has gone up. What is that? 45%. And again, I don't want to, want anyone to think that me making this point, so I'm trying to essentially say, oh, energy is trading well and copper is trading well. That means there's not going to be a recession and, I'm the most bullish ever. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that seeing these things makes me rethink the sentiment out there that everyone is essentially saying we're heading to recession. And so maybe you think, oh, maybe not. I'm not saying, okay, I'm the most bullish guy ever. I have, I'm not buying SPY on margin or anything, but does it look like to me, we're at, 100% sky is falling? I mean, I don't know. Monthly chart on SPY still doesn't look great. Still probably making new lows there. So we'll see. One thing I was checking out that we've talked about a lot on the show before is the AAII, the American Association of Individual Investors Sentiment Survey. And I've also, I like to talk about the survey just because it's kind of fun to look at and fun to see how the sentiment shifts week to week. But ultimately, we've talked about how this sentiment chart might not matter the most because at the end of the day, price is going to determine sentiment. If SPY is going up every single day for 2 straight weeks, you're going to see the amount of people, the amount of individual investors get more bullish. And the vice versa is true too. If you see SPY getting hammered every single day, you're going to see the more bulls come out of the woodworks. Market is not built for us. Yeah, Jay, that it was. I mean, I think you dropped the comment in here yesterday, and it's something that I've talked about too. Whether it's looking at XLE, but seeing like, okay, FCX and SCCO, copper trading near all-time highs, like you don't see that in a recession very often. And again, that doesn't mean, it's not everything has to be so black and white where I have to be a huge bull or a huge bear. I'm just saying, like, it's hard for me to be that bearish that a lot of people are out there thinking that this, huge recessions come in. The market's going to crash another 15, 20% if you look at, Michael Burry or whatever. And by the way, on this note, you had Jamie Dimon come out however many months ago, 6 months ago, and say, there's an economic hurricane coming, all this. And then he starts walking those comments back saying, I don't know if, we're really going to end up seeing that big hurricane or whatever. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter who I'm talking about, Jay Rice. I'm obviously only in charge of the things I see and my opinions. There are a lot of people out there bearish right now. I mean, look at this. There are more people bearish out there than there are people that are neutral or bullish. But not everything has to be so black and white. My point again is just that it's hard for me to get behind this whole, recession, big bear case when, it seems like the economy is holding up in terms of inflation has come down a decent amount with higher interest rates, but we haven't seen that huge increase in unemployment. We haven't seen a huge decrease in economic activity. And those markets, like we looked at, like you said, Jay, the home builder charts, whether you're looking at copper, whether you're looking at energy, and you have to look at the underlying factors that led to the 07-08 recession and just big recessions in general. I understand people worried about housing prices as mortgage rates increase and get higher, but at the end of the day, we still have a shortage of housing. Simple supply and demand. Well, I don't know why my voice just cracked like that, but simple supply and demand will tell you that if you have a shortage of supply, it's going to be hard for the price to really drop that much, right? Demand's not going to drop that much for housing. People need somewhere to live. And right now, there's not enough essentially housing out there for the demand to meet. Part of that, of course, is from big investment companies like BlackRock and Blackstone and stuff coming in, buying houses. But look, I mean, bottom line, whether you're looking at the housing market, whether you're looking at, do I think the Federal Reserve is essentially going to let the economy slip into a deep, deep recession just to try to get down to 2% inflation from 3.5% or whatever we'll be at in a couple months? Like, all of these things, I just don't think are. I think every single day that essentially passes, we're getting closer to a big recession not being the likely outcome. Because like I said, we've seen inflation come down without that big increase in unemployment. And I don't think a lot of people thought that was possible 6 months ago. I think people thought we were going to have to see that unemployment number really jack up and come up higher before we saw a meaningful decrease in inflation, and that hasn't been the case. Catching up on the chat. I didn't realize copper was cheap. Yeah, I don't know why SECO is ripping so much, but copper is still pretty cheap. And I talked about that with energy too yesterday. You have to assume that one of those two things is going to essentially be true, where that either means that copper is going to start coming up because the underlying economy is strong, or you're looking for some of those things, XLE to crash because it's got to catch up with a weakening economy. I don't know. Don't have a crystal ball. All right, guys, I see my man Nick Brown hanging out in the background, so let's go ahead and give Nick our special Zinger Nation welcome. When we come back, we'll be talking to Mr. Brown about what news stories he's been watching and some of the top headlines.
This is Benzinga Live. Spencer Israel and producer AB. What's up, everybody? How we doing?
Someone told me buy high, sell higher.
Let's get Matt Hammond on the show to talk some IPOs. Jake Wojacek from Trend Spider. We have
breaking news. All right, Mr. Nick, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Good to get you back on Benzinga Live.
Yes, good to be back.
How's school going?
It is good. It was special day off today. Just real quickly, two things here before we start. Damar Hamlin of the safety of the Buffalo Bills is back home. He was discharged from the hospital. And two, the reason we're off of school today is because the police officer was shot here in my about 10 minutes away from me a few weeks ago. And so we are going to be having, we are off because of the funeral procession. So just wanted to keep that in mind too. So two things that we wanted to pray for today. We're not off today because of a special day, but just because of him and his family to give, as they are in my school community that was shot. So we're just praying for him, praying for his family as he is laid to rest today. So that is why I'm off of school. So it was a good opportunity to come on here, talk markets as well as that too.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Nick. But yeah, let's move into try to transition from that as best we can. It's just some headlines. You mentioned the Damar Hamlin. What about market related? Seen anything that you've found, of interest today?
I was going to say, we're getting some more calls on oil as we've seen oil prices have come down. We have CPI report tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. And there is some talk that the month-over-month number could actually be negative. And so Vital Knowledge is a good research platform that I like. And they actually say that they remain more bullish than most, but the setup into the CPI isn't great. So they say, quote, they felt for months that the U.S. inflation was past its peak with disinflation forces set to strength. And in the months ahead, that's still their view. But however, the December CPI specific price is pretty high. The street is already penciling in a sizable deceleration into the CPI with the headline figure forecast negative 1/10 month over month and 6.5% plus 6.5% year over year versus the 0.1% and the 7.1% respectively of November. Core plus 3% month over month and plus 5.7% year over year versus the 2.2% and the plus 6% respectively in November. If the negative 1/10 month-over-month forecast proves accurate, that would be the first drop since May of 2020. And so there's going to be talk is like, what's going to happen with market if it comes in bullish? Well, they say bottom line is they're still very much of the view that inflationary forces are strengthening, and the SPY will likely see 4,100 before 3,800. But the setup into the December CPI isn't great. So basically saying if we have a bullish number tomorrow, 4,100 is better than 3,800 because we had Mike Wilson, Morgan Stanley saying 3,000 could be coming up. So there's all this talk that, hey, inflation's coming down, gas prices coming down, everything's coming down. We may get a hotter than expected CPI number tomorrow, which is good for us. What's going to happen with the market? Is it going to soar? Is it going to curtail? Nobody really knows, but they're saying CPI, they remain bullish, possibly good number tomorrow, possibly disinflationary will be happening in the months to come ahead.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, it's always, I think it's one thing, and I talked about this on the show yesterday. If you're trading something like the CPI report, kind of a binary event, right? The numbers either essentially a binary event. It's either going to come in line or better than expectations, or worse than expectations. In this case, worse than expectation means higher than the expectations. I mean, inflation comes in hotter than expected. But it's not only that. I mean, it seems pretty cut and dry, right? That if the number's lower, the market will respond well. If the number's higher, the market will go down. And that probably will be the case tomorrow. But you have to not only, weigh what you think that inflation number is going to be, but then, okay, how has the market been reacting? Like, how are we setting up into this? Is there more risk to the downside? Is the expectation now too much that inflation's coming down to where even if maybe it does come down a little bit, maybe the market doesn't respond that well because that was the expectation already? I don't know. I mean, I still, my expectation, Nick, my just prediction, and again, this is not investment advice for entertainment purposes only. My prediction is that if that number does come in lower than expected, even if it's slightly lower, we will see the market respond really positively to that. But I could see a big slide to the downside if we get any type of number that's hotter than expected, just because of the fact that we've seen a lot of traders kind of essentially betting that inflation has and will continue to go down. So if we get some data that contradicts that says, okay, hold up, maybe inflation isn't coming down as quickly as people think, I don't think the market's going to take too kindly to that.
No, and we've been hearing that, are we in a recession? Are we not in a recession? There's still that debate on Wall Street too, if we're in a recession or not. And I'm not here to say if we are or we're not, because the bureau that normally declares the recessions, they haven't declared one yet. And I'm not sure how long that will take for them to say, hey, we're in one or we're not in one. But no, if we get a number that is better than expected, so that is below 0.1, negative 0.1, if we get a number better than that, then I think there is some upside. But if we get some kind of volatility here that, okay, the month-over-month number was not so great or was great, and the year-over-year number wasn't so great, there's some possibility that tomorrow is just going to be at 8:30 is going to be a roller coaster. I think if the number is great, but it's mixed, I think futures will spike. And then once the data comes in and investors and traders digest the data, I feel like we could see some kind of a decline. Who knows? We're going to have to see how this data plays out. And I think the report itself too, with the different measures, how they measure it is going to be interesting, because I think tomorrow is really going to set the stage of how the meeting for February is going to go. One of two CPI reports, I think, before we get the February FOMC meeting. I think the tomorrow's report is going to be something to watch, because I really think that's going to show you how 50 basis points, 75 basis points, how that's going to be playing into the market in February.
Yeah. And that's kind of, I think right now, of course, we're going to get other headlines. I don't even know. We might get some earnings reports after the close today. I have no clue, but it doesn't really matter the way I see it. Like, the whole market, all of Wall Street is just going to be tuned in on this CPI report tomorrow morning, and then we'll kind of take it from there.
And then we have bank earnings on Friday. That kicks off the Q1 earnings, or Q4 of last year, and heading into Q1. That's really going to be very volatile this week, because we not only go from a CPI report, But then bank earnings on Friday, imagine they miss expectations. There's already reports that they're going to miss expectations. And then, oh my gosh, then forget it. Once we get to tech and they miss expectations, we're just setting ourselves up into a either good earnings season or we're going to have a bad earnings season as we go ahead. And I mean, it's just going to be crazy to see how Friday shapes up to be after Thursday, how futures react Friday as the bank earnings come in. I think we get Wells Fargo, Bank of America. We get a lot. I think we get 4 of the 6 major bank earnings on Friday, and then they continue into Tuesday because Monday market is closed in observance of Martin Luther King Day. So Tuesday we pick back up some bank earnings, and then Q4 earnings season rolls on.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, banking earnings starting on Friday will swing us just straight into. I mean, we've already had some volatility to start the year so far in the markets. You know, we've talked a lot about names like Tesla showing a lot of volatility, but not just that, just the overall, you know, SPY every single day seems like it's making big swings either direction. And then tomorrow, CPI, bank earnings Friday, more earnings the next coming weeks. I mean, it's going to be, I think, kind of, I don't know. I don't know if you really want to be looking at your portfolio every day in this market because things are just going to be kind of crazy. But Nick, are you seeing anything, you know, in terms of headlines from individual companies? I mean, I know last week we had Amazon layoffs, we had Coinbase layoffs yesterday. I believe we had some news with Meta, with some international regulations last week. I don't know. I mean, it seems like kind of slow on the news front, but with that said, you're still hearing some decently big stories out of some big tech players.
Yeah, I was going to say BlackRock in the last 20 minutes, according to Business Insider, they say that they're cutting up the 500 jobs as the market turndown hits the world's largest money manager. I continue to post layoffs on Twitter, and we have gotten up to a point where it is more than 280 characters. So I am going to be adding another thread because the layoffs that we've had, they range from tech, HP to Meta to Amazon to so many different companies that it is continuing to rack up. And there's actually this cool website too that tracks them. I believe it is called on Twitter. It is called layoffs.fyi, and it tracks tech startup layoffs and lists of employers laid off to them to give exposure to the companies that are still hiring. And I've been using this website for a while. It's a great tool to see who's cutting up to what, and it gives like percentage bases and companies with the layoffs. They are in chronological order as they continue to come in. So they've been cited by Bloomberg, TechCrunch, Wall Street Journal. So this is a website that has been tracking areas. And so we saw yesterday, Coinbase is laying off up to 20%. The tech companies just continue to go on. And even in the crypto space, surprisingly, Binance this morning said, I think, 15 to 30% they're trying to hire as rivals continue to cut. So we're in this area are we having layoffs or are we having hiring? And we're in the camp of both right now.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, you know, I've talked a lot about the unemployment number and kind of how the overall economy has seemed to so far been able to withstand all the higher interest rates. And it might not seem that way when you see these headlines saying Amazon's laying off 18,000 people or Coinbase lays off 20% of its workforce. But I think a lot of people now are starting to realize that maybe a lot of these big tech companies kind of had the room to trim some of their workforce already and just didn't really have a need to when interest rates were at or near zero. But now that they're rising, are able to do so and maybe need to do so to start cutting costs. But that doesn't mean that necessarily the underlying economy, right? Just because you see some of the biggest companies and they happen to be big tech companies doesn't maybe necessarily mean that's going to be the case throughout the economy. Like I've said on this show for months and months and months and months, Tesla, Coinbase, Amazon, Apple laying off some employees, that's one thing. I'll start getting more concerned when I see, you know, FedEx, Walmart, like those types of companies where employees and stuff are doing jobs that are more like tangent, more connected to the actual economy, people spending money every day at Walmart, people buying goods at FedEx. When those companies start doing like massive layoffs, that's when I'll get more concerned that the unemployment number is really going to shoot up, and we're getting closer to a recession.
Yes, and we actually got a report yesterday that FedEx is starting to lay off their Sunday deliveries. So I'm not sure if that's like a sign or a key thing to hear. All right, we're slowing one part of the business for deliveries. Now, what's going to come next? We're going to have to watch how this plays out into Q1. We're going to have to see Q4, how the Q4 numbers result when they report, because a lot of these companies could be waiting for when they report earnings saying, hey, we're laying off 10%, 14, 15, whatever the number is. What that may be, we'll have to find out. But I think the Coinbase, a lot of the crypto, I think, too, of where we're at in crypto, what we've seen with FTX, what's been playing out, I'm not surprised that a lot of these companies are laying off workers because they're going bankrupt.
I don't know what happened in Nick's stream there.
But
yeah, I mean,
hiring.
Your stream like glitched out for a second, but I think you're good now. Or maybe it was my stream that glitched out for a second. But yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I mean, big tech companies laying off employees are one thing. And just because, I mean, Nick, you brought up the FedEx thing. I mean, FedEx, like every company, let's be honest, is going to do what it's able to do right now to, cut costs and try to increase margins. So whether, if they cut a few routes or do this or that, not that concerning to me. It's more so like if I see FedEx start laying off like a very significant portion of its workforce, like 15 to 20% of its drivers, and it's like, okay, what's going on? Are people not buying things right now? Is FedEx really not doing that? Is FedEx really doing that poorly? That's just when I would get more concerned about the odds of us heading into a full recession. So let me catch up on the chat real quick, Nick, see if we've got any other recommendations for stocks to check out. Otherwise, you got anything else, any other top headlines on your list, things you want to chat about today?
Yeah, I was going to say the airlines issue this morning with the computer issue too. That's on the heels this morning of Morgan Stanley with a report this morning saying 4Q22 preview, a winter storm and a Goldilocks teacup. So they say the severely disruptive winter storm over the holidays was a harsh reminder of the uncertainty still facing the airline industry that was coasting through 4Q until that point. However, we see it as an isolated 4Q event and continue to expect a Goldilocks year in 2023. And some of the names that they point out too is key names to watch into the print is Love, UAL, ALK, SNCY. So a lot of these are just pointing through saying, hey, the winter storm impacted Southwest. With the last 8K update they filed last week, we're going to have to really see how well these numbers are. Boeing yesterday just reported deliveries of Boeing airplanes, 4-year high. So we're getting back to somewhat normalcy, but we're going to have to see with this computer issue, the computer glitch this morning, Aaron. I think that really threw off a lot of people because this report that they issued actually came this morning. So it's like, was something planned here? Did something go wrong? Because the 4Q preview for airlines came on the same morning that we had this computer glitch. So this was very interesting to see what's going to transpire with the airlines. I have not flown in a while, so I'm not exactly sure what the situation was like. You were off a few weeks ago. Can you give us some insight of how the airports were? Were there a lot of people waiting around for flights with the Southwest area? What airlines did you fly in? Did you have any issues?
So I got really lucky. I flew over the holidays kind of during that whole fiasco where Southwest had to cancel a bunch of flights. But like I said, I got lucky. I was flying Delta, which is a big hub here in Detroit, went off without a hitch. And Delta did something sneaky. I know you saw this picture that I shared in Slack, Nick, but what Delta was doing was they were handing out free sandwiches, desserts, cookies, you name it, not just to people buying Delta flights at the airport, but just to everyone at the airport. They just had people posted up outside the Delta Skies Mall. It didn't matter if you were walking to a Spirit flight or an Alaska Airlines flight. Delta was just handing out free sandwiches. And I realized they're doing that because all these people that had Southwest flights had to buy a Delta flight because their Southwest flight got canceled. And maybe these people, have Southwest credit cards and they're loyalty members at or at Southwest, and they're buying a Delta flight for the first time in years. And now what? You're getting free sandwiches and cookies, and your flight takes off, and it's like, oh my God. Like, and I honestly, just personally, like I had flown Southwest a lot. It's big in St. Louis, in the St. Louis airport, you know. So when I moved from St. Louis to Detroit, I started flying Delta more, and I've been converted. I usually am a very loyal person to my brands, but I will say I've been converted to a very big Delta fan over time.
Yeah, and that picture was very interesting because there's a lot of talks of who's going to be the top major airline. Is it going to be United Airlines? Is it going to be Delta? Is it going to be Southwest? We're going to have to see how these reports come when they report Q4 results to see how the holiday travel came, because we didn't actually hear much from the airline saying, hey, we did really good in Q4. They haven't really given a preview that I have seen. So when they report these earnings for Q4, when they say, hey, what's going to happen in 2023, that's going to be a key paragraph. That's going to be a key line in not only the earnings releases, but in the conference call on what they say for 2023. Are they expected to be back to normal? Are they going to have more flights? Are they going to be buying more planes from Boeing or from whoever? We're really going to have to see how the travel season shapes up in Q1 through 23. Are more people going to be out flying? I mean, we just got a report today that the Biden administration is extending the COVID health, the procedure through April, the emergency. Is that going to stop people from flying? I don't really think so. I think many people are still grasping with masking for in different situations, but they're still flying. Things are still happening. So it's going to be interesting to see who gives the perks and what kind of perks are given. Like Delta, hey, take a free sandwich, take a free cookie. I don't care if you're Southwest or wherever you are here. Just take something free. How is each airline going to cope with the different surprises, the different rewards bringing you in? Just because, you had a Southwest airline, hey, you're getting 25,000 perks back or whatever points. That's like 300 some bucks. Nowadays, that's not really much because of inflation. Tickets are soaring. So we're really going to have to see how the airline situation plays out. And I'm going to be very excited to see how these reports shape up, because I think if airlines is a part of reopening. And if the reopening trade gets to like a dimmer down, hopes start lowering after these reports, I'm not exactly sure that's going to be good for Q1.
Someone's asking about the type of sandwich they had. It was they were little sliders, little turkey sliders on like Hawaiian rolls. They're actually very, very good. I will have to say. And so here are my thoughts kind of on the airlines as far as stocks and investments go. And by the way, I should say I'm looking at our Benzinga news wall right now, and I see on CNN they're talking about it. Thousands of flights delayed, canceled after FAA system issue. Maybe we'll have someone from our news desk join and give us an update on that. I know CNN spoke to Pete Buttigieg, the Secretary of Transportation or whatever his title is. But here's what I was going to say about airlines. So historically, for whatever reason, the airline industry is not one where companies just like freaking crush it. Like it's kind of like the automobile makers where for whatever reason, look at Delta's chart, which is of course like a leader. Even in 2020 before COVID, when, everything was like Delta was at all-time highs, but not like the chart doesn't look as strong as a lot of stocks there, basically, is my point. And through this whole 6-year period, I mean, if you bought Delta stock in February 2015 at $51, 6 years later, from 2015 to 2020 or to 2020 before COVID was like a huge bull market, like a great bull market. All these stocks went up so much in that 5-6 year span. Delta went from $51 to $61. I don't think the stocks are necessarily the best like buy and hold investments just for that reason, that for whatever reason, they're not like super profitable, maybe not super growthy companies. But with that said, something like the Jets ETF, I think will often set up for decent trades. You can see it kind of got some good volatility, always swinging like one way or another. So if you're looking for something to potentially swing trade, I do like this Jets ETF. And I mentioned it a few months ago on the show when this thing was just getting beaten up. Like at the end of the day, these airlines and this Jets ETF not only has the airline companies, but the airline manufacturers like Boeing and Airbus and whatnot. but they're not going to like go out of business. So when they started getting low and started approaching the, June 2020 lows, when you had to go back all the way to like 2016, this thing was trading at $23 and we were at 19. I started thinking, okay, now's the time maybe to buy some Jets. Not to buy and hold it for years and years and years, but try to squeeze like 5, 10, 15% out of it, knowing that this thing's not going to zero. It's not going to, even if it gets down to COVID lows, like I'd buy it again down there, because at the end of the day, like the government's going to help out these airlines if needed. Whether or not they're the most profitable or growthy companies doesn't really matter if you're just looking for a little swing trade. So I don't know if Jets is going to continue strong. I mean, it looks like, potentially could fill, this type of gap to the upside up to $23. I don't know. I'm going to keep watching Jets and keep watching the airlines. But that's just my 2 cents on the airlines as far as like stocks and investments go, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and if I can add, I think too in this sector, this is going to be one sector that is going to want people. They need people. We've seen in the era of 2022 and even in Q4 that they are shorthanded pilots. They are shorthanded a lot of people. So this is going to be one industry. I would be very surprised that you hear layoffs instead of hiring spree, because I don't know if your plane or your company or anybody else, when they traveled, if they were shorthanded for pilots, because we've seen that play out too. And Pete Buttigieg and the Biden administration is trying to get down to the bottom of this, of why pilots and the different people in the airline industry are working overtime when they're shorthanded. So maybe in Q1 through 2023, we hear that more people are going to be are hiring for Southwest, Delta, so they're going to possibly be hired there. But I think this comes on the heels. Susquehanna downgrades Southwest to neutral from positive, and their concern for the airline is it has operation concerns, as we've seen with the Winter Storm Elliott, disrupted travel in late December, with Love's related operational meltdown from and center among U.S. peers, e.g. more than 16,000 flights canceled, or 4% of Love's planned 4Q22 inventory going into December. It really goes to show that a lot of these companies, a lot of these corporations that rate these airlines, that whatever they do downgrade, is very concerning. Are they going to be able to keep up with the travel demand in Q1 of 23? Q2, Q3, I guarantee as we continue out of the COVID pandemic stage, and by summer of 23, I really think records could be broken of travel once again.
Yeah, and I mean, the pilot shortage issue is interesting because it's I mean, there are a lot of different causes. One major one is if you look at the number of U.S. pilots, say like 30 years ago or 40 years ago in the 80s, something like 2/3 or 70% of commercial airline pilots were former military pilots. And over time, that number has dwindled to now it's about 1/3 of commercial pilots. And at the end of the day, like that was always a strong pipeline of commercial pilots, people that flew planes in the military for the Air Force or for the Navy, that then retired from the military and started flying for Delta or for Southwest or for whatever. And over time, our military has been training less and less pilots as we're using more and more drones. And that's led to a lot fewer former military pilots going into the commercial airline space. And now we're dealing with a pilot shortage. And it's actually going to be essentially a potentially pretty big problem for the U.S. airlines, because what they're talking about doing and what they're already having to do is essentially build big schools to train their own in-house pilots and say, hey, yeah, we'll pay for you to come out of college and start training to be a pilot. Because going the private route to becoming a pilot is really, really expensive. You have to, get a certain amount of hours in the air and pay instructors for all those hours and whatnot. So without the military pilot to commercial airline pilot pipeline, there's going to be a gap in pilots, and the airlines are going to be the ones that really have to figure that out, maybe with the help of the government in some cases. I don't really know. But that is going to be an interesting issue to continue to watch.
Yeah, and we're going to have to see how these more issues play out. Are they going to continue to have computer issues like this morning getting canceled and delayed a lot of these flights? I mean, as we gear up, as travel continues to come back, our biggest concern is how many issues are going to happen when more people continue to travel, especially in the summer. Are these issues going to be persistent? Are they going to be happening often? And if so, what is going to have to be done? Is more funding going to have to go to the airlines? Is upgrades going to have to happen? Because at some point you have to question, do I really want to fly? Do I really want to put myself in another situation like Southwest, what I did with Southwest? Oh, I'm stuck in the airport again. What am I going to have to do? Am I going to have to start driving home? We don't want these issues to happen. And I really think that's the biggest question too, is how often are these issues going to have to happen? And if they happen frequently, is funding, what's the question? How do you resolve the issue? Is it going to be, do you give them more funding? Do you give them, I don't know, better computer systems? What is the question to resolve this? And I think Pete Buttigieg is really going to nail down, because I think he nailed down on the Southwest issue, saying this is ridiculous. And I think he's saying this again, this is ridiculous too. But what is the question? How do we go about solving issues like these?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because, I mean, I know for a lot of people and for a lot of investors in general, like regulations is kind of like a dirty word and investors don't want to hear it and whatever. But I mean, like at some point, and I've kind of been noticing this recently. We've seen like Europe really kind of EU kind of step in and have some strong regulations on Meta and some other big tech companies. I mean, one we can talk about is this thing where the EU is forcing all cell phones sold in Europe essentially to have the same port, the USB-C. So now Apple's going to have to comply to that, and now every iPhone in the US is going to be on the same universal port that like all Androids are. And that's I was talking about it with my buddy last night. Like, I think that's going to be good for consumers. Like, think about it. You get in an Uber, you need to charge your phone. Every single person's going to have the same cord. And I mean, like, I wouldn't be opposed to having the government intervene and saying, like, okay, if you delay or cancel a flight, someone that has a ticket to and they need a destination, there's a, huge fine. Like, I'm sure the airlines would stop canceling flights if there's some huge fine. I think it's at the end of the day up to what are we like willing to tolerate from the airline companies as a country, as what are our leaders like going to be willing to tolerate, because you don't really have much of a choice, right? It's not like, I mean, Southwest obviously kind of got singled out, but all the airlines cancel and delay flights. What are you going to do? Like, not buy airline tickets? Like, people need to. So I think that will be interesting to see if Buttigieg and the rest of the administration is like able to do something on that front, because maybe we're getting to a point where consumers get so fed up with these companies that they're willing to tolerate some sort of regulation there.
Yeah, and I mean, too, just because you can drive 6-7 hours, I mean, at some point you're going to be driving 8, 9, 10, 11 hours. Somebody coming from San Francisco doesn't want to drive all the way to New York or doesn't want to drive all the way to Pennsylvania. Right there, you just want to take a flight because it's probably going to be much shorter and it's probably going to be easier instead of trying to fill up the car, fill up this, and fill up that. So then you have to factor in, well, then you can either blame the weather. Like Southwest, they blame the weather, they blame this, they blame that, they blame the pilots. I mean, all these airlines at some point got to just say, hey, it's on us. We eventually have to take the blame. They cannot be blaming everything else. And I think Pete Buttigieg is at this point saying, hey, you can't be blaming weather. You can't be blaming this. Hey, you actually can a little bit, but in the end, you're going to have to take some responsibility. You're going to have to take some hit from that.
100%. All right, let's catch up on the chat real quick here. Looks like we are getting a little SPY run here. Let me go ahead and pull SPY up on my Benzinga Pro. Of course, if you have not already, pro.benzinga.com. Sign up for your free 2-week trial. No credit card or anything needed. If you're trading pretty actively, this is something that will aid you in your training and help you out a little bit. So here's what I'm watching. We're looking at SPY on the 5-minute chart. Go back to a couple days ago on Monday on the 9th. We're right at that high. If we're able to take that high out, I mean, let's go to a hourly chart here. We're potentially looking at the highest point on SPY that we've been at since, a few weeks ago, December 15th, 2022. So could be looking at like a month-long high if we're able to take out this 394 level that we hit on Monday. Let's see, what do we get up to? 393.5. So yeah, if we get up to 394, you're looking at pretty much a month's high on the SPY. Some good positive trading action here. I'd be cautious up here though, because it could look potential double toppy if you're looking at this through a more bearish lens than I am. But yeah, I mean, again, like going back to the CPI report tomorrow. Of course, we also have the initial jobless claims tomorrow, I believe. So some big numbers coming out tomorrow. I think I wouldn't be surprised to kind of see this afternoon being quiet trading wise as people kind of gear up for this big event tomorrow.
Yeah, especially with earnings. We have earnings Friday. They kick off with the banks, and it was interesting. We got last night that the Wells Fargo news that they're pulling back from the housing industry, and we're gonna have to see how these banks do. Are they going to continue to lay off? We know Goldman is laying off some workers this week. To actually today, they're going to be notified saying, "Hey, you're done." We're gonna have to see how these play off. What comes as we head into Q2, Q3, Q4. I think at some point, some of the targets on Wall Street are still 45, 4,600. Do you ever think, the question is 4,800, 4,900, 5,000 on the S&P? How is 2023 going to shape up to be? And I really think too, at this point, is it going to be recession playbook? How earnings are doing? What sectors are going to be outperforming? Oil. There's a lot of questions too remaining in 2023 that need answered. We just saw this afternoon, or this morning, I should say, Goldman's Jeff Curry reiterating his target on oil, and trying to find that as I quickly try to find it. But I think too, Goldman's Curry sees oil at $110 a barrel by Q3 on China. And I think Carl Quintanilla from CNBC put it best. Curry is going to keep doubling down, even if it takes multiple business cycles. Does oil eventually, I don't know, get back to 60, 50? Because we know the administration does want to refill the SPR at around 60 to 70 a barrel. And we're going to have to see how oil prices play out with China reopening, with different leaders appointed in China, travel. There's a lot of concerns and demands that may be fulfilled in 2023 and may not be fulfilled in 2023, especially the Fed. Are they going to cut rates this year? Are they going to continue to keep pushing interest rates higher because they're trying to tame inflation? Is inflation going to fall back to 2%? I mean, these are questions that are looming in my head. They have to be looming in others. And there's a lot of things that need answered in 2023 for a stable market. Is the S&P going to be able to reclaim 4,800? Are we going to get back to record highs? We're still seeing 52-week lows today. And how well do we get 52-week lows? Is 3,000 a possible level on the S&P 500, like Mike Wilson is saying? So we're going to have to see what happens in 2023. And Q1 and Q2 are really going to be important, because I really think that's going to set the stage for Q3 and Q4, especially the summer months.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, I think, it's just such an interesting macro environment, because it seems like everyone's gearing up for this big, global economic downturn. I talked about this with a guest last week. It's like, at what point does everyone like gearing up for a recession and cutting costs? Like, at what point does that cause the recession, right? That everyone's like just assuming this is going to happen, whether it happens or not. If all the businesses are, essentially dictating the way they're running their business based on there being a recession, like it could be some sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy in that regards.
Yeah, and the question is, are we in a recession or are we not in a recession? That still looms in people's heads. And so I know I'll probably be back down at the New York Stock Exchange sometime in the summer. So I'll probably be traveling again. I'll get to see what the market's looking like. And I'm supposed to be visiting Benzinga headquarters. I think I'm trying to plan for somewhere in March or April. So traveling again. We're not traveling by plane. We're going to be driving. But you'll get to see the amount of planes, the amount of people on the roads. Is traveling going to be coming back? How is traveling demands going to be up? Is a recession happening? Is inflation actually going to come down this year instead of bouncing back between 7%, 6%, 8%, these levels that we've seen in inflation? There's a lot in store for 2023, and I think we have to just take it one day at a time. Unlike CPI reports, where we're trying to predict what's going to happen tomorrow. Is it going to be negative? Is it going to be positive? What is going to happen with a lot of things? Is the House going to be able to, is Congress going to be able to function, or is there going to be more fighting in Washington for bills that need passed, that don't need passed? There's a lot of things that's going to move the market this year that I think that's going to move the market this year than it did last year. Yeah,
and I mean, I think last year was a year that we saw, a lot of big big events, big headlines, whether you're talking about, you know, the Russia-Ukraine war, whether you're talking about China and COVID being completely shut down, whether it's about inflation in the United States, and all these things were like very, very, very negative. And to your point, Nick, we might have more of a mixed bag this year in terms of news catalysts. Like, I'm sure there will be a lot of bearish headlines and bad thing, you know, bad numbers that come out, whatever. But I'd be surprised if what dominates the, you know, kind of news agenda are all these things that are so bad at the same time, right? I just remember at one point distinctively in, like, I want to say it was in the middle of summer, maybe like 6 months ago or so, where it didn't matter where you were looking or what story you were looking at, but it essentially seemed like it was like as worse as you can get it, right? Inflation in the US was hitting 40-year highs. COVID, you know, people in China were like rioting and protesting because COVID lockdowns, but China's government said they were going to maintain the zero COVID policies. So economic activity was being suppressed in China. You had the Russia-Ukraine war causing you know, supply chain issues, causing food prices to increase, causing energy prices to increase in Europe and UK. You had people talking about there not being enough energy for businesses to like keep the lights on in the UK. And I just remember thinking when all this was happening at once, like, now's the time to buy. Like literally nothing could get worse right now. Like, we are at rock bottom, not in terms of price, but just in terms of you know, like sentiment, like you know, news wise, everything was just as bad as you can be. And I don't think we're going to see that in 2023.
You reminded me, I actually forgot about keeping the lights on in Ukraine and the Ukraine-Russia war. I mean, we're like, I think past the stage of, hey, they're still battling. It's probably going to be a little while before they somehow get to a peace agreement. So we're like, I don't want to say we're moving away from the issue, like completely forgetting about it. But I really think the trying to get the peace negotiations, how long is the war going to continue to go on? I think that's like out of the circle here. And we're trying to more focus on China, with their people with the zero COVID policy, and Apple over in China, big tech, how they're functioning. We're moving away from like nationwide issues to country issues to more of United States issues of Fed, inflation, Congress, Apple, like earnings. I think that we're still worrying about worldwide issues, but we're not. We're moving away from it. I don't know how to, like, it's hard to explain because I think at some point we're still worrying about Russia and Ukraine, but we're moving away from these issues. And a lot of the traders and investors are focusing on inflation in Congress and Washington, what's going to happen with earnings, travel demand, Apple. How does Apple perform in some of these market expectations? Microsoft. You know, we're moving in this direction where it's like we're rotating on a basis of how we rotate out of stocks. We're rotating out of issues.
100%. Yeah. And I mean, it is interesting, I think, how like short-sighted a lot of these stories, like, you know, even the Russia-Ukraine thing. I mean, it was like the top thing, not just in terms of markets, financial news we were talking about, but just on CNN or Fox News or whatever news channel you watch for like literally 2 weeks. And it was kind of like not out of the news cycle, you know, we'll still see the occasional updates, but it wasn't the, you know, thing that everyone was talking about like it was for a few, you know, minutes there.
And now it's when you turn on the TV, we're talking about the Fed, we're talking about Congress, we're talking about earnings. I don't remember the last time I've heard about a Russia-Ukraine war on TV. It's been weeks, I think.
Yeah. All right, well, let's see, Nick, here. I want to see if we've got any questions in the chat or any stocks people are talking about. J Rice, Crocs now at 13 PE. I mean, Crocs has been super strong, up another. Holy shit, look at this freaking, sorry, excuse my language, Nick. But look at this move on Crocs. I mean, holy cow. At some point, I don't know, what do we need to look at? We need to look at the RSI. Like, what do we look? I don't know. I mean, I think fundamentals are very strong here, but fundamentals aside, just price action wise, I mean, you got to hit a pullback at some point. I'm not saying you go short Crocs here. Trust me, I'm not doing that. If I buy Crocs puts, you guys will be the first people to know. I like the shoes way too much to do that. And obviously the stock is in favor right now. I mean, anytime like, you want to buy the conventional wisdom, is buy low, sell high. But a lot of times, you hear sometimes people say buy high, sell higher. You want to buy stocks that are showing strength. Crocs is showing a lot of strength here. I'm not saying it's buy or sell right now because I do expect some sort of pullback as this thing essentially goes up every single day. But look at this weekly chart. It looks like like, you see these tractions and you usually take out the previous highs. I don't know. I mean, Crocs will be one. Remind me, Nick, to keep watching Crocs because this thing's certainly interesting here.
Unless everybody, because we know Hey Dude shoes was acquired by Crocs for $2.5 billion in like December of 23 or December 23 of 2021. So maybe everybody's buying Crocs because they like the Hey Dudes. I mean, Aaron, I don't know if you have a pair of Hey Dude shoes, but I have 3 pair going on. I just got another pair for Christmas. They're one of the comfiest shoes that I've ever worn. And like, even though I'm in the house, I actually have Hey Dudes on right now as we're speaking because they are so comfy. And there's like a million different colors on Amazon, on the Hey Dudes website, but there's so many different colors that you can mix and match with to actually go with today's style. So if you don't have a pair of Hey Dudes, I suggest that you get one.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah, and I was actually talking about this with our with Hot Stocks Luke the other day because we were talking about On Stock, which is another shoe company, and it does okay. So On here, you could see the stock's been performing pretty well. This is more of a growth company, I would say, than Crocs, which I think has a lot of like inherent value baked in just how much like cash flow it has, like. On's forward PE is like 50. This one's way more growthy. But I just worry with some of the shoe names, like what kind of staying power every time, because it's like On shoes or On Cloud shoes, whatever they are, might be the hottest shoes right now. And they might be the hottest shoes for the next year. But are people still going to be buying them in a year? And I look at something like a Allbirds, which of course, what was Allbirds stock symbol? Is it just BR? Allbirds. Okay, it's still a stock. It is ticker Bird. Wow, I could have guessed that one. All right, so ticker Bird. Allbirds. Look at this stock chart. I mean, this thing's ugly. And Allbirds were like On Clouds, the most popular shoes like ever. Like I'd go, you'd go meet up with some friends and like 8 out of 10 people would be wearing Allbirds a couple years ago. Now I don't hear too many people wearing Allbirds. So Crocs to me is like an exception, not the standard for a shoe company that sees a lot of growth because Crocs, I mean, really was a fad in like the mid to late 2000s. All of a sudden you saw every single mall with Crocs kiosks and Crocs stores and every single kid had Crocs just like out of the blue overnight. But they had staying power. 10 years later, people are still buying Crocs. 15 years later, people are still buying Crocs. So, again, I think Crocs is the exception, not the standard. I don't really love a lot of these other shoe names just because of the sense of I don't know, I think it's really hard to predict which ones stick around 3, 4, 5 years from now.
Yeah, and we're going to have to see how, too, are people going to be out when some of these retailers report, like Walmart, Target, whenever they report earnings, too. Are people buying shoes? What are people interested in? Me, I think the new furniture, as we gear up towards spring, we're looking at new clothes, new furniture, stuff for outside, but because we were all trapped in the house for many months. So we're going to have to see what inventory is going. Are people buying new iPhones? Are people buying new shoes? Are people buying new clothes? To me, I'm all over the map here. I'm buying almost new of everything because it's been a while, but I don't know for you, but I think shoes, furniture, clothes is going to be like a top especially when we gear out, as weddings come back, parties go back, people want to look fresh. They want to look new. They want to go out buying some new clothes. So I think the clothes business, the shoes business eventually is going to have to come back.
Yeah. And I mean, you typically don't really see, or at least what we saw the past couple of years is we've really seen the, consumer just shift in different areas, right? During COVID, when everyone was stuck at home working remotely and on Zoom meetings, you saw a huge increase of athletic and athleisure wear. And then you heard like Target and some other retailers start saying about, a year ago or 6 months ago, we're starting to see that consumer shift. People are starting to buy a lot more like business casual clothes, things for travel. People are getting out of the house more. So I think you always, if you're trading these names that are very consumer facing, right, retail names or just brand names like Crocs, like Allbirds, like, On Shoes, you just got to, I think, always be cognizant of what these different consumer trends are and how different events like COVID can affect those trends, and then really determine like, okay, do I think On is a stock that is going to be, worth investing like a year and a half from now, or et cetera. So it'll just be interesting to watch. I do like watching these names because it gives a good insight into just the, like consumer mindset, where people are spending their money right now.
Yeah, and especially too, is business travel going to be coming back? Are a lot of people for business going to be traveling to the different conferences, to the different meetings worldwide, like Hawaii? The different conferences, maybe San Francisco. Those probably will be coming back too. And I know when I travel to Detroit for Benzinga HQ, I will be in a suit, or I'll be in like the business travel clothes. And especially when you travel to like New York Stock Exchange, the Nasdaq, like the big people, the big companies here too, is business travel wear going to be coming back. They're going to be probably relaxed. You can wear your Goldman Sachs T-shirt with some jeans, or you can wear your Nasdaq shirt with some pants here and some tennis shoes. I think as we continue to open up from COVID, I really think the travel business attire will be coming back.
Yeah, I mean, and I think to your point, Nick, we've already started to see that, but I wouldn't be surprised to continue to see that increase. Just more and more people buying business clothes as opposed to athleisure or at home clothes. Let's see. Sorry, just catching up on the chat here. Any other names? I saw the Crow's talking about AMV. It seems like a runner on the day today. Let's see what AMV is doing. So anytime, of course, we're talking about one of these runners that's up, oh my golly, this thing's up 220% today. So Atlas Motor Vehicles, I don't even really know what this thing does. Let's look at the 5-minute chart overview. Atlas Motor Vehicles is a mobility technology company developing products that will power work. I don't even know what that means. The Atlas innovators are building an electric vehicle technology platform for heavy and light duty work trucks for individual fleet use in the agricultural, service, utility, and construction industries. Sounds pretty neat. Trading higher for the company to reach 2 gigawatt hours worth of battery capacity in the form of customer demand. I don't really know what that means, but sounds like good news. Anyway, what I was going to say about just runners like this in general, if you're buying a stock that's up 200%, right? Obviously, you're more than free to do so, whatever. But just know you're gambling. That it's could run another 100%, sure, or it could drop another 100% really quickly. And we've seen this drop actually quite decently significantly since we've just been talking about it in the last 30 seconds. So I don't know exactly what's going on with this stock. I never go out and buy these runners that are already up. If I would have caught it, here at like $4 at 11:40 when the show started, maybe. But you're already seeing the biggest red candle forming on this 5-minute chart. So we'll keep watching this, but I'm not in AMV right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as I said on the show a few weeks ago, back when Christmas break happened, and I was on the show back in December, I said, be very careful with these because never even heard of this company. And we've seen these short squeezes once again. We get the run up, like Bed Bath & Beyond today is up like 53%. Didn't they just want to file to go bankrupt or bankruptcy again? So a lot of these companies are trying to get attention that they're not known. That if we can pivot to, Aaron, there's some headlines coming out here from the Wall Street Journal that President Biden actually just published a piece that the Wall Street Journal published an op-ed from him talking about uniting against big tech. And I just pulled it up here, and the opinion and commentary is, it says Republicans and Democrats unite against big tech abuses. Congress can find common ground on the protection of privacy, competition, and American children. Not exactly sure how this is affecting tech stocks too. When I did pull up about like a 10-minute chart of Meta, there was a slight decline. It was still positive, but as I'm trying to go through his article, some of the headlines that Bloomberg is grabbing saying Biden urges bipartisan support to hold big tech accountable, and Biden is concerned about how some in tech use personal data. I'm gonna try and dig deep as I'm talking to you right now to see what he says specifically regarding personal data, but just wanted to highlight that to keep an eye on big tech stocks, Meta, Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, just to see to how that could play out, because we're in this stage here that many people may or may not know is we're in a divided Congress in Washington. Republicans control the House, Democrats control the Senate, and this Congress, the 118th Congress, it is going to be very tricky in passing bipartisan support bills in the House and the Senate, because we have been seeing a lot of them stick to party lines, 221, I think, to 212 in the House. And so we're going to have to really see what packages get through, what is being passed. We know Republicans have already said they're not going to be any trillion dollar bills, and Democrats are saying, well, packages need to get in, like the IRS. They want, I don't know, Republicans want to do something with the IRS that Democrats are saying, no, that's not, it's over like a 10-year period. So we're going to have to really watch how Washington plays out on what bills are being passed. What, too, is President Biden wanting to get passed? Is it going to get passed? What is going to be, like, how do you work together in this environment when one party controls one part of Congress and the other controls part of the other? We're going to have to see how bipartisan support works and how they all can come together to pass legislative things that need passed.
Yeah. Couldn't agree with you there more. I mean, looking at Meta's stock chart right here, this is one that's still well off its highs, of course, of more than $380. But down here at 133, I was saying that, I liked this down here before we head into the holiday season, because I thought the Oculus would have a strong holiday season. I don't know if we actually honestly ever got, let me see, is that what, no, it's not even called the Oculus anymore. What's it called now? The Meta Quest headset?
I think it's called the Meta Quest. Yeah, I was going to say Meta Quest.
Christmas sales 2022. Let's see if we got any headlines. Was Meta Quest 2 a Christmas sales hit? Mixednews.com. I don't know if we can trust this news site. All right, let's go back. Let's try to find a different article. No, I'm not really seeing any headlines. Because I remember last year the Quest, the app for the Quest, or the app for the thing was the best selling or the top app the day after Christmas. Like, it was the most downloaded app because of how many people bought them for Christmas. I don't know if that was the case this year or not, but either way, Meta's stock is doing well. Of course, that is just kind of following the overall trend with other big tech names. But Apple having a particularly good day. But yeah, I mean, I think if that is one of the risks that you're looking at with these big tech companies, is certain types of regulation in the Congress, Nick. But I mean, honestly, it seems like both Democrats and Republicans, at least the mainstream ones, are pretty content just kind of letting the companies do what they do and saying, no, we're fine taking our lobbying money and just kind of letting them run course.
Yes, and we're going to have to see how, too, whenever big tech reports their earnings, what they're projected to see. Are they going to be laying off workers? What are the different types of businesses, especially the Microsoft and the Activision? Are they going to be able to combine this year? And I really think, too, Benzinga Pro is the place, because we are trying to make sure you guys get those, too. But especially the charts, you can compare and contrast the different charts, too, I think is very important, because like Netflix charts falling off the thing again, Microsoft. Are all of these big tech companies going to be are they going to be able to reclaim the losses? Are they going to be able to get back to gains, what they lost in 2022? So there's a lot of questions of what's going to happen with big tech this year. I mean, are IPOs going to be coming back? Are acquisitions going to be coming back? There's a lot of questions that loom in a lot of heads here. That what is Netflix going to do? Are they going to be able to beat on subscriber growth again? What do they forecast for the series on Netflix? What's going on Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, Warner Brothers Discovery? There's a lot of skepticism and a lot of questions, looming questions of how these companies are going to remain profitable, how they're going to be able to keep a lot of subscribers. Because I know Xfinity to Comcast, that's a big one. I mean, streaming services do cost a lot of shows are going behind the paywall Peacock, Paramount Plus, Disney Plus. There's a lot of ones that are going behind the paywall, and it's like, okay, here's another $3.99, $4.99. Here, I don't want the ads. Like, here's $8.99. Eventually, spending to these streaming services are going to have to come to a slow or stop or something.
Yeah. Netflix, I do think, is pretty interesting. I mean, you've already had this huge, basically 100% move from, actually not basically, a real 100% move from its lows of this past summer of about 160 up to 320. But even at 320, it's still like less than 50% of its highs. So Netflix is one of those that I think you could look at it either way and say, okay, this thing is still way too high, or it's moved too high too quickly. It's got to come back down a little bit. Or you could say, oh, this thing's still so beaten up. I don't know. I mean, Netflix will be a good stock to watch that will, I think, give us a decent gauge on growth and speculation, right? If like Netflix is doing really well, I think people are saying, okay, like tech growth, we can go back in and take some speculation there. If not, if people aren't buying Netflix here, then that's a sign to me that, okay, there's not a lot of risk appetite out there in the market, because right now, I don't know why. I mean, honestly, Netflix got down to a crazy valuation at its point where its market cap got down to like less than 80 billion or something, and I don't know what we were doing, why we weren't just all buying a bunch of Netflix below $200, because I do remember why, because at the time it had come down like 80% and everyone was like, oh my god, who in the world would own this name right now? And of course, when the sentiment was at that rock bottom, that would have been the best time to buy.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see too, like, what are the big streaming services, the big streaming giants trying to do to retain, to keep the subscribers already, and what are they doing to offer the new subscribers? Like, how do you mix and match here? I mean, what is, like, we have Hulu. What do we have here in my house? We have Hulu, we have Peacock, we have Netflix. At some point, we're just going to get rid of cable because of how expensive it is. Keep the internet and just go to the streaming platforms. At some point, that's probably going to be the new era. Is you're going to get rid of cable TV at some point, and you're just going to stick with streaming giants, especially Roku. And when you buy the Roku, you can actually download specific streaming like apps. I can download CNBC. I can download the certain major news outlets and just subscribe and just watch via there. I don't have to buy another cable box, or I don't have to buy this certain package to watch this. At some point, there's going to be an era in time where we get out of the streaming, the cables here, and you just buy the certain subscriptions.
Yeah, I saw someone in the chat saying they were selling Netflix, buying some Warner Brothers, of course Paramount too. So I actually don't hate that move. Looking at some of the more value media companies, I think media companies in general tend to get hit really hard in recessions. But like you guys have heard me like talk about, like I'm not the most convicted that we are seeing this huge recession in Q1 or Q2 of 2023. So I wouldn't mind taking a stab at some of these Warner Bros, Paramounts. I think both of those names got swept up in the Archegos kind of blow up. So you see on the chart just how beaten up those stocks have been. But I think they have inherent value in the stocks in the terms of the company's cash flow. I think Warren Buffett himself is in Paramount right now, or if not Paramount, in Warner Brothers, one of the two. So I don't hate that move from Easy Mike there, taking some profits off the board, or hopefully profits off the board with Netflix and buying some Warner Brothers with that. So Warner Brothers and Paramount, both names that I think worth watching right now.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see like Warner Brothers Discovery. I think there was an upgrade or a downgrade sometime this morning. Something that Warner Brothers Discovery too, and trying to find it. But at some point, we're gonna have to just stick with the major streaming giants instead of trying to just buy all these individual packages, because at some point they get expensive, in my opinion. But maybe people are gonna continue to subscribe to each and individual. But at some point, do you think that maybe tech could somehow come all together, and if you buy one big package, you get a little bit from each instead of just trying to buy the individual and wasting more money? I think if somehow they all come together and they form one big package, so you get a little bit of each, that could help bring in new subscribers.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just invented cable.
Yeah, but so Guggenheim actually, it's another day, another WBD, another Warner Brothers Discovery upgrade. And Guggenheim says an attractive narrative for the first half of 2023. Cost discipline at direct to consumer in particular should bolster confidence in the company's ability to meet consensus 2023 EBITDA estimates, ups to buy 16.50 target, so $16.50 target. And CNBC, Ron Insana, a contributor to CNBC, but he's a public speaker and the co-CEO of Contrast Capital Partners. He says Zaslav is always going to win, just a matter of time.
Yeah, wow. Sorry, real quick. I see James Jason asked, did y'all talk about the U.S. flights being halted due to a hack? Hasn't happened since 9/11. I didn't see that there was confirmed that it was a hack. I don't know. I saw we talked about it earlier on the show. We talked about the different airline companies. Pete Buttigieg, the what's his title, Nick? The transportation secretary, something like that, was on CNN.
Yeah.
Talking about the flights being canceled or delayed, but again, I don't have any. Let's check on here. I guess let's check. Where should we go? Let's go to American Airlines. I'm sure that
I was going to say, per the FAA on Twitter, the latest update that was released this morning was at 8:50, saying that normal air traffic operations are resuming gradually across the U.S. following an overnight outage due to the notice to air mission system that provides safety info to flight crews. The ground stop has been lifted. We continue to look into the cause of the initial problem. President Biden says that he's offering the DOT, or he put the DOT to work, that he wants the DOT to investigate. But there has been no signs that this was a hack, that something big happened. Even, I think he said this morning, too, that it wasn't a hack. Press Secretary Jean Pierre said so.
Yeah, I'm looking on Benzinga Pro right now on our newswire. What was behind the computer issue? It says that's still unknown, but law enforcement officials have said that it doesn't seem to be the case of a cyber attack. Even so, President Joe Biden is ordering the Department of Transportation to launch a full investigation into the matter. So, I mean, at what point? Or on one hand, they're saying it's not a cyber attack. On the other hand, they're launching a full investigation, which you probably wouldn't do if it was just some sort of computer glitch. So we'll get some more clarity of that. I guess we're not reporting that it was a hack, because that is not what we're seeing yet. So I'll just say we don't know, James, and it seems like that report of it being a hack is so far unfounded. But from reading between the lines, maybe there was some fishy stuff going on, because again, full investigation into the matter. The delay of flights caused problem for airline stocks as well. During pre-market trading, many of these stocks, including American Airlines, Delta, and Southwest, were falling as a result of the chaos. However, those stocks have since recovered, with some of them even rising as of this writing. Investors that are looking for all this latest stock market news will want... Oh, okay, that was just like a little ad in the article. That wasn't from Benzinga, though. So can be found on Benzinga Pro. That's the cool thing with the news feed, is we get articles fed in from all over. Let's check back in on Apple before we wrap up the show today. Still up more than 1.5% today, but I believe trading off its highs. Let's go to a 5-minute chart here. Yeah, kind of giving up those highs a little bit, but not by much. Trading at the highs of the day, we should say. So, Nick, any other headlines on your radar?
No, I was just going to say, because we do about 10 minutes left of the show, I'm going to run quickly through some of the earnings. We're supposed to be getting earnings expectations for Friday. These are via Earnings Whispers. They put out, Benzinga Pro does put out a calendar, or Benzinga, I should say, does put out a calendar each and every week regarding the earnings, and estimates can be found Benzinga Pro. But really quickly here, these are just some of the estimates. And again, depending on where you get your estimates, they could change. Some people do Earnings Whispers, Seeking Alpha, Refinitiv, Bloomberg Consensus. We at Benzinga also have on the Benzinga Pro tab, you can find the earnings release, the earnings estimates too. But quickly, for JP Morgan, EPS of $3.11, revenue 34.16 billion. That's up 11.4% expected revenue growth. Bank of America, EPS 79 cents, revenue 24.59 billion. 6% expected revenue growth. Delta Airlines, this is going to be one to watch. EPS of $1.34, revenue 12.39 billion. Expected revenue growth up 30.8%. United Health Group, $5.17 for earnings per share. Revenue 81.97 billion, 11.2% expected revenue growth. Wells Fargo, EPS 62 cents. revenue 20.01 billion. That's actually going to be negative 7.9% expected revenue growth. BlackRock EPS $7.96. Revenue is 4.24 billion, minus 17 expected revenue growth. And to end it off, Bank of New York Mellon EPS $1.22, revenue of 4.26 billion, expected revenue growth 4.7%.
Wow, yeah. So we're gonna be into the thick of things when it comes to earnings. I see people talking about Boyd, people talking about Tesla in the chat. Always a lot of interest in those EV names, so we'll always be watching those here on Benzinga Pro. All right, well, Nick, thank you for hopping on the show with us today. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day off school. I know it's not under the best circumstances, but of course, we were happy and glad that you were able to join us today. It was a great show, great conversation. Smash the like for Nick, everyone. Just, 16, 17 years old, bringing us some great stock market news, some great stock market headlines.
Thank you. Continuing to be with Benzinga is always a great opportunity. I'm going to be 17 on Monday, so MLK Day Monday. I'm off of school Monday, so it all works out. And we are trying to launch something. Mitch and I are going to try and launch something for earnings season. Don't want to get too much into the details here, but we are working backstage, working around the clock here. Going to be meeting with Money Mitch today around 4 p.m. to discuss what we can do for earnings, of how we can do live earnings and different things and have different guests on. So don't want to give too much away. Probably just did. But stay tuned. He will have much more. He and I actually will have much more, hopefully sometime in the next week, as earnings season continues to kick off. Aaron, it's always a pleasure joining you, and it's always a pleasure of watching you too. I'll admit I do watch in school whenever it's lunch. I always have Benzinga up, so just plug that in there. So even though when you think I'm not watching, I'm always watching to make sure you continue to fulfill the legacy of Benzinga Live, because it's a show that we all love, and I hope it never goes away.
Word. Well, I appreciate that, Nick. I mean, I don't want you to get in trouble at school, but always love to hear more people that are tuning in. So, again, Nick, thanks for hopping on. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Happy early birthday. Everyone smash the like again for Nick. Nick, peace and love. We'll be chatting soon.
Thank you, Aaron. Peace and love. Thanks, everybody.
Of course. All righty, guys. That is Downtown Nick Brown. I'll go ahead and drop his Twitter handle in the chat. News by Nick. Go ahead and give him a follow on Twitter as well. It is 12:55, 5 till. All right, speaking of 5 till, I saw this thing on Twitter yesterday, or not yesterday, a couple days ago. Someone tweeted, they were like, so you're telling me a 5:15 isn't 5:25? And I get it, because they were thinking quarters, 25, like a quarter's 25 cents, 25%, whatever. So they were thinking 5.25. But I mean, seriously, like what is our our education system? Does it not teach kids how to tell time, to where they would think a 5:15 is 5.25? Again, I'm not trying to judge someone who is just trying to ask a question and get better and learn, because I misunderstand a lot of things too. I'll be the first to admit it. I don't know. I mean, I don't think people say that as often anymore. Like, oh, quarter till, I'll meet you quarter till, 5 till. It's kind of an old people talk that way. And I always hated it as a kid. Someone would say like, oh, yeah, well, I'll pick you up quarter till. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. I'm 8. Like, just tell me a time. But that's neither here nor there. Again, give Nick a follow on Twitter, News by Nick. It is 12:55. We started the show early today for the Start Engine. We've been live for about an hour and 55 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mitch. We'll be live here in a couple minutes. This stream will automatically redirect you to the next stream. You do not need to go anywhere. You can just hang out here. Money Mitch will be live on Stock Market Movers. Let's check out who Money Mitch is talking to today. He'll be talking to Sam Stovall, the Chief Investment Strategist at CFRA Research, at 1:15. So here in about 20 minutes, Mitch will be hosting that interview. Again, do not go anywhere. I'll be tuning in for that one. Mitch has some good stock picks, some good trades he's going to be making on that show. So again, good interview coming up. Thanks for everyone hanging out with us today. Shout out to the Start Engine founders that joined us on the show at the top. Again, we'll run through those. That was Zell Crampton from Diggs, making some, new dog crates, some cool dog crates. We had Agent Crew and Agent Red from Wine Spies, winespies.com. Use the code Benzinga to get an extra 10% off your first order. Max Pro Fitness, based here in downtown Detroit. Of course, we love any Detroit company. Shout out Nazar Akil, founder of Max Pro Fitness, pitching Kevin O'Leary right now. And then we have David Liniano from Swift, making some cool electric vehicles, scooters, bikes, you name it. You want an electric vehicle, you can find a Swift, I don't even know, electric vehicle, is that how you want to, an electric transportation device. Go to Swift. You can check them out at Best Buy, Walmart, Sam's Club soon, David said. So hope all those founders had a great time pitching Kevin O'Leary. Just a matter of time before I get to pitch Kevin O'Leary on something. Got to figure out what it will be, though. But again, peace and love, y'all. We'll be back tomorrow, 11:30 a.m. Eastern, our normal time. Smash the like if you have not already. Money Mitch will be starting soon.